Yeah.
I had a question, just to clarify, when, because I've experienced that when you can just have a day when you're in the flow, and it's
Yes.
just like, oh man, I mean, more and more and more, please. But when you're trying to do that, and then you get bombarded with all those frustrations, this is what I took from it, and that's what I want you to clarify, is that is Spirit's way of saying, we're going to really frustrate you here, and you keep that vibration high and let it roll off.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what what
Okay.
our training is, and that's
Okay.
what Jan meant by we're in our own set of circumstances, similar to what the Essenes went through in
Okay.
their, in their training. The Essenes in honest time, and particularly in Egypt, all of the initiations, I mean, they used to have to swim with, crocodiles.
Oh, literally.
I mean, these life-threatening initiations, to be able to raise your vibration and confront that kind of reality. Well, what's different today is they were in select communities, and they had like holy trees, groves, and sacred places where the vibration was higher, that they went and did initiations in and went and met in, because they were able to create a 0-point energy field. And what's happening is with the planetary ascension that's happening, the entire planet and everybody on it is in their own version of a mystery school now.
Okay.
So nobody can escape it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It isn't like you went off in a particular sect or particular training like they did in their time. There was something I know I've talked about this before, but when Claire and I brought through all of the characters for Honor the Voice of the Magdalens, all of a sudden, we had only been living in Springdale for like 6 months, and we got popped out of there. I mean, I didn't think we were done with the sessions. I mean, all of a sudden it just abruptly ended. And we all eventually had to move, and we had to walk away from all of that material. I mean, I had no idea if it was ever going to be published or ever going to be made public, and to have this intense time doing all of this and then just have to walk away. So it wasn't until I was living in Rhode Island having to do with some family stuff 3 years later that I got a call from Claire, and the Councils of Light had decided that the mass consciousness wasn't ready for this material because it was way too controversial, the material presented in Honor the Voice of the Magdalens. So we had no idea if it was ever going to be published, so we just had to walk away. So it wasn't until 3 years later that I got a call from Claire saying she had gotten the go-ahead from the Councils of Light, who decided that the consciousness had shifted enough that now it could be possible to publish the book. So she and I spent an entire year taking that raw information from the recordings of those sessions, and we compiled it and put it together and sort of in a chronology and, expanded the narrative and put it into the book, Honor the Voice of the Magdalens. So you just don't know. There's so many levels and layers. But when we decided that we were going to put this out as a book, Claire and I, she had a really long driveway where she lived, and we were on this long walk up her driveway, and we just had this brainstorming session about the difference between the Magdalens then, or the Essenes, and Magdalens, or people today. And then they had to develop supernatural abilities and skills. When you think about them, they were a tiny little band of people that have influenced the history of mankind everywhere in the world, right? So in order for them to keep the teachings that they had experienced alive, some of them had to develop extrasensory perception and telepathy to be able to keep the material alive and to be able to transmit that to people at long distances. Some people had to learn teleportation, where you just raise your body into a higher vibration and, you end up in Sedona, 5 minutes later or whatever. So many of them needed to do that. So they had to develop all of these extraordinary abilities just to keep the vibrancy of the teachings alive. Not to say that they had lifetimes, all of us have had lifetimes of taking vows of secrecy and silence to protect this information. And it's not so much the information. The Magdalens were responsible for the energetic integrity. And what the church did is they came in and they took the information, they distorted it, first of all, and then they ripped it from the energetic components. So we get the information, skewed and distorted to a certain degree, but we don't get the energetic mechanics that make it work. So what the Magdalens have safeguarded all of this time are the energy codes and the principles of what that really means, so that couldn't be, taken over and misused. So that's what's beginning to come out now, and it's coming out through us. It's not coming out through church officials. It's not coming out, it's coming out because there are many of us who have this wisdom in our soul memory. And not only from this planet, many of us are from somewhere else. And what the Magdalens do, not just here on Earth, but any time that there is a planet or a system that is in an ascension process, all the Magdalens go, we'll go, right? So then we choose to incarnate in whatever bodies are in that system, and they call themselves the midwives of the shift of consciousness. So anytime there's a shift happening, the Magdalens, and you don't necessarily consciously know that you are or who you are or what you're doing, right? But it's there, right? And, you're just guided or impelled or something, to start maybe you've never even been interested in anything metaphysical, and all of a sudden it's like the alarm on your clock goes off and says, okay, it's time. You have to now remember your piece. It's time for you to start taking these steps to be part of the midwives that are assisting in this shift of consciousness for the planet, for everybody upon the planet. So this is what the frequency raising is all about, if that makes sense. Yes?
It's kind of like just, no matter what walk of life we come from or what ideas that we have, it's just being open to raising our vibration.
Yes.
The simplicity of raising the vibration, I believe, is bringing in the allowance of all the gifts that are available to all of us.
Absolutely.
Because once we raise that,
Yep.
then it's like opening a portal for the downloads to come in,
Mhm.
which happen anyway. But now when they come in, we'll be able to be more conscious and aware
Yes.
of the receiving of it.
So it's absolutely about consciousness. Absolutely. And they keep showing me, we keep thinking we have to do something. What we have to do is, first of all, just become aware, and then stop doing what is keeping it suppressed.
Yeah.
But it takes a certain amount of willingness to look through a different lens, to figure out what that is for you, to stop whatever. And it's everywhere around us, It doesn't mean you have to go out and protest, or you have to go, have a podcast, or, each person is being guided to do what their piece is. And everybody has a piece. Everybody is a thread in the tapestry. And everybody's piece is needed, or the tapestry wouldn't exist, right? And even if you are just doing that in your own personal life with your family or your friends, if you were just holding the light or assisting or helping in any way, you're being guided to help, you're doing your piece. And the other piece I see of this is the more we raise our frequency, the more light we're able to download and anchor. And the more light we're able to anchor, of course, that expands and affects a greater number of people. So anyway, it's just we're being asked to now do what we came for, whatever that is, individually for you. And I have a couple other little pieces in my book. I mean, my life has been really bizarre. I mean, there have been a lot of difficult stuff. I mean, and there's some real, like Salvatore was saying, this is really hard to read. I wanted to go in and yank you out of certain situations, Just for those of you, let me start here, then I'll share the piece I want to read. This is the synopsis on the back of the book. Raising my frequency is an autobiographical journey of awakening. Instead of deliberately seeking a spiritual journey, the journey found her. Setting out to experience the, quote, more of life, Catherine Ann Clemett shares her ever-expanding understanding and integration of who she is as a spiritual being. Full of bizarre and almost unbelievable moments of synchronicity, her journey is analogous to the flying by the seat of his pants adventures of Indiana Jones in his quest for the Holy Grail. Synchronicity escalated for her after she had a personal encounter with the Master Saint Germain in his physical body. Awakening occurred as she emerged from a dysfunctional childhood into an extraordinarily crazy spiritual journey led from beyond the veil. She openly shares life lessons gained from being in a cult for 8 years, along with facing and overcoming several life-threatening situations which enabled her to develop greater self-confidence in her own inner authority. A wondrous life beyond her wildest imaginings unfolded. In addition to being an award-winning author of many books, she is now an international speaker, a spiritual teacher, and a tour leader. She overcame her, quote, small self-identity, enough to anchor and expand the light necessary to accomplish her soul's purpose. Here she shares the agony and the ecstasy of raising her frequency. This is the initiate's journey of awakening to the more of life. All of us are being invited to experience now. So that just kind of gives you an idea of the book. So what I wanted to share about this, and I write, this is the first time I was in this cult for 8 years. I mean, full-on cult behavior.
Was that Jay-Z night?
No. People accuse Jay-Z and Ramtha of being a cult, but there is a second, I love Mafu, there's a second channel named Mafu, channeled by Penny's Torres Rubin. And I loved Mafu, but that wasn't it either. And there was a third one who, this woman, Mary Jo Donay, who channeled an entity named Zanzuna. And Zanzuna claimed to be the third ascended master after Ramtha and Mafu. And against my better judgment, because I had mixed feelings all the way through with Zanzuna, and I write all about that in here, I ended up getting lured into this group for like 8 years, full-on cult behavior. And people go, how did you end up there? And this was in my 40s. I mean, I was not like a teenager, So for 8 years, I was part of this group, and it kept tightening more and more and more, and it was my education about the dark side. And I couldn't be doing what I'm doing today without that foundation of experience. And so it's the first time I've written about the cult. And so my best friend, I worked up at Mount Rainier in 1983, and the only other 30-some 30-year-old person in my dorm was my friend Kay. She was 32 at the time, and I think I was 30. And everyone else was like 18 or 19, you know. So anyway, Kay and I became long-term friends, and she kind of moved where I moved, and when I got involved with the group, I cautioned her. I said, I don't know how I feel about this, but she decided she wanted to join anyway. And so anyway, throughout the evolution, it really was learning. It's like a spider that lures its prey over a long period of time. That's what I write about, all the experiences and how we were like prey until she finally pounced and conducted and owned every aspect of your life. And I talk about how I had that moment and how I escaped and all of that is in here. So anyway, my friend Kay was so bitter that she ended up with colorectal cancer that killed her. So basically, 2 years after she left the cult, she died. So, I was really just beginning to feel comfortable, with channeling and getting messages from the other side. So one day, this was in 2003, I felt Kay's presence really, really strongly. And I thought, okay, I'll sit down and see if I can get anything right. So this was her message to me back in 2003. She goes, yes, I am here. This was, I think about 2 or 3 years after, 2 years after she died. She died in 2001, right after 9/11. So yes, I am here. Don't be alarmed by this process. It is more natural than you can ever imagine. It's quite fun, actually. It is like going underwater for the first time and realizing you can see and swim under there, even though the medium feels foreign to you at first. It is easy, easy, easy. I want you to know that I love you and want to help you since you did so much for me before I left your plane. My view is much expanded now. of unserving if they stay in the state of undeserving. Michael's, who's spoken to this group many times in Mahaya, is an amazing channel of dolphin and whale energy. And we did an event together, and so I had a bunch of like whale and dolphin type of jewelry and these pendants because we did a thing in California. We did an event, a weekend event, you know, where we had to have merchandise, you know, to be made available. Well, it rained.
And so you've got merchandise.
And so, you know, so that's what these are from originally. But they're really cool. I really like them.
Yeah,
they are
And
nice.
I wear mine.
I've got some, and I wear it on the backside.
Yeah, and it's a, you know, it's a stone. It's not a manufactured thing, you know. So, any other questions?
Go sign, go.
Thank
All right.
you so much.